Mikko Rantanen, Martin Necas, Taylor Hall, and Jack Drury. These four players were all part of a trade that's absolutely shook the NHL in shock because of its caliber. Colorado lost one of its top scorers, but getting a pretty good one, and Carolina is completely changing their identity. While the Blackhawks, well, they got a third-round draft pick, but they are also retaining 50% of Rantanen's salary. So unless that third-round pick is like an insane player, this trade was kind of a loss for the Blackhawks. Let's look into this trade and how this completely shook the entire NHL. This trade honestly changes everything for the playoffs and who is going to have a chance to win the Stanley Cup. Let's start with Carolina. The Carolina Hurricanes acquired Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall. This is a huge acquirement for Carolina. The Hurricanes needed more depth, as outside of their first line and half of their second line, there really wasn't much. Coming into the season, I really wasn't expecting Carolina to have as good of an offense as they've had this season, but with players like Eric Robertson, Jordan Martinook, and even the captain stepping up, the offense has been so much better for the Hurricanes. Even Jack Roslovic has been huge for them. But with Rantanen and Hall coming in, this offense now looks so much more dangerous. Especially because to get Taylor Hall, the Hurricanes pretty much didn't really have to give up anything, as they only gave up a third-round pick and for a good depth piece at that. I do feel that Chicago should have been able to get a lot more for Taylor Hall, but hell, maybe I'm wrong about that. Rantanen this season was due for an extension with the Avalanche, way overdue. But unfortunately for Colorado, Rantanen wanted money that was close to Leon Draisaitl's yearly salary, which is a little over $14 million a season. The Avs wanted to get Rantanen on a Nathan MacKinnon type deal where it was a little over $12.5 million a year, but Rantanen's agent, as said before, wanted $14 million. Because of this, there was noise around the fact that Rantanen was going to be dealt at the trade deadline, and it was unlikely that he would probably be traded before then, but out of the blue, a blockbuster trade that was probably in the works for more than a few days happened, and the NHL was shook. Let's move on to Martin Necas and actually why he was traded. This all dates back to last offseason. There was a lot of uncertainty that Necas was going to even be signed by the Hurricanes, especially because talks had gone on for so long and there was a lot of noise about Necas being traded. The Hurricanes ended up signing Necas to a bridge deal with the Hurricanes that consisted of $6.5 million a year for the next 2 seasons. Necas himself stated that he was very 50-50 on the whole thing, stating that he was dissatisfied with how he did last season and was unhappy with some of Rod Rindamore's ice time decisions. It was clear that Necas needed a change in scenery, but this past season has been different for Necas. He got his ice time and he's tearing up the league with 16 goals and 39 assists for 55 points in the 49 games he has played this season. The only reason why I can believe Necas was still traded is, well, he just made up his mind. He made up his mind about going to a new team, as from earlier he was 50-50 about the whole situation and most likely he wanted out now. This whole trade was incredibly unexpected by everyone in the hockey world, but it's pretty clear why it happened. The Avalanche, with acquiring Martin Necas, get a good player, as Necas himself had a career high in points just a couple of seasons ago. However, his production for some reason dropped quite a bit and did not have a good season last year, with only getting 53 points in 77 games. However, this season Necas is well over a point per game, and in 49 games, as stated earlier, he has 55 points. This has already passed his season high of last season in 28 less games, and I'm sure with the Avs, his production will keep climbing. The only issue with Necas that I see is his postseason track record. In the playoffs, Mikko Rantanen is always a difference maker. He has the ability to take over playoff games, and he showed that in his dominance versus Winnipeg last season and Seattle the season before. Rantanen has been over a point per game in the playoffs for his entire career, and although the Avalanche added some depth, I do feel like unless Necas takes a big step forward in this postseason, the Avs got a little bit of a downgrade. Necas hasn't had over 10 points in a postseason run and only has 30 points in 59 career postseason games compared to Rantanen's 101 points in 81 career postseason games. Although Necas had stepped up more for the Hurricanes in the 23-24 postseason run, he really never had the ability to take over games though in that series and be as dominant as Mikko Rantanen has been able to be. As for Taylor Hall, well, I believe this is a really good acquisition for Carolina. Saying that they only had to give up a third-round pick to get him, this is honestly a good deal. I still believe Taylor Hall can be a really good scorer, and I do think this could be a Jonathan Drouin type case where Taylor Hall will get points with the Hurricanes. Let's not forget, Taylor Hall is washed, but yes, he was on a really bad team. Hall with the Bruins a couple of seasons ago had 5 goals and 8 points in the 7-game series against Florida, which means that Taylor Hall still has the ability to be a really good scorer. As for Jack Drury going to the Avalanche, I do think this is also a good depth piece going to Colorado, and going forward, I think will be a nice piece. But as for who actually won this trade, I think I'm going to have to give this to Carolina. They just got two really good players that extremely changed their identity, especially offensively, and I think it's going to make them a scary contender. Although I think Colorado did get a decent return, I honestly don't believe they're as scary as they used to be. But who knows, maybe Colorado will actually prove me wrong and Martin Necas turns into the demon he was always supposed to be. And well, hey, give me your thoughts on this down below in the comments. What do you think of this whole trade that occurred between the Avalanche, Hurricanes, and Blackhawks? Who do you think won this trade? Because, well, as I said earlier, I do believe Carolina won, but give me your thoughts down below. Do you think Necas will be a good piece for Colorado, or do you think that Colorado got fleeced? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next one.